I was sitting by the wide glass window of my apartment in downtown Chicago when my phone buzzed. It was a soft, familiar vibration against a marble counter, the kind that usually meant nothing more than a calendar reminder or an automated email. But this time, when I picked it up, the glowing blue notification came from Facebook.
A tag.
A picture. I swiped it open, still half-focused on adjusting the silk cuff of my cream blouse before my morning meeting. And then, my heart stilled. There it was, a photo of my parents' living room, lit up with balloons, a cake glistening with 28 candles. Except the cake didn't have my name on it. It had hers, my sister, Anna. The caption stung like salt on an open wound. Surprise party for the best daughter ever. Happy 28th, Anna. Party popper, we love you so much. My hand tightened around the phone until my nails dug into my palm. My birthday. My 28th birthday. And my family had thrown a surprise party, just not for me. I leaned back against the chair, heels clicking against the hardwood floor as I exhaled slowly. From the outside, I looked composed, the kind of woman who had her life together. But inside, the little girl who had once fought to be seen was still there, wide-eyed and trembling. And now, thanks to one careless Facebook post, she was awake again. When I was younger, birthdays were always complicated. Anna was the golden child. She had the soft curls everyone adored, the laugh that seemed to echo through every room, the report cards taped proudly to the fridge. I was just there, the quieter one, the one who tried harder but was noticed less. I remember my 16th birthday more vividly than I should. I had waited all week, heart racing, thinking maybe, just maybe, this time my family would make it about me. I came home from school, cheeks flushed from the cold, hands clutching the straps of my worn-out backpack. But the living room was already filled with neighbors, music, and the smell of frosted cupcakes. Anna was twirling in a new dress, beaming as everyone clapped for her. My heart sank as I realized the truth. It wasn't my birthday they were celebrating. It was just another excuse for Anna to shine. That night, I shut myself in my room, tears burning down my cheeks, muffling sobs into my pillow so no one could hear. I felt invisible, like the air in the house, necessary but never appreciated. It was my grandmother who slipped inside quietly. She didn't say much, just handed me a small silver locket shaped like a heart. Inside was a folded piece of paper with words scrawled in her elegant handwriting. You don't need the world's applause to know your worth. Her fingers brushed my hair back as she whispered, someday you'll understand. You'll build something of your own, and they'll have no choice but to see you. That night, I made a silent promise to myself. I would not keep begging for scraps of affection. I would not stay invisible. If no one else was going to celebrate me, then I'd learn to celebrate myself. And in the quiet ache of that moment, I decided. I was going to leave, and I was going to become someone they could never ignore again. Leaving home at 18 wasn't a grand, cinematic moment. It was a duffel bag stuffed with too few clothes, a bus ticket to Chicago, and a trembling heart that didn't know whether it was breaking or finally being freed. The city was loud, cold, and merciless. My first apartment was a shoebox with paint peeling off the walls and a radiator that hissed like an angry cat. I worked double shifts at a diner, wiping down sticky tables, pouring endless cups of burnt coffee, and going home with my feet aching so badly I'd cry in the shower. But there was one thing I carried with me every day, my grandmother's locket. Whenever self-doubt clawed at me, and it often did, I'd open it, read those words again, and push forward. My turning point came when I met Evelyn Ross, a woman who seemed to walk into every room like she owned the air itself. She was a regular at the diner, always sitting in the corner booth with a stack of papers and a laptop. One night, after I'd refilled her cup for the third time, she looked up at me and said, "You're sharp. You notice things. Why are you wasting that here?" The question stung, but it also lit a fire. Evelyn became more than a customer. She became my mentor. She introduced me to the world of marketing, showed me how creativity and strategy could change lives, and most importantly, she believed in me when no one else did. I started small, designing flyers for local shops, building websites for friends of friends. Each little win felt like oxygen. Then came bigger projects, my first real client, my first check that didn't just pay rent, but left enough to buy groceries without counting every dollar. I worked nights, mornings, weekends. I studied, I failed, I tried again. There were days when I felt like giving up, when the weight of exhaustion sat heavy on my chest. But every time, I reminded myself I was not invisible anymore. By the time I was 25, I had built something real, a boutique marketing agency that slowly began attracting attention. I rented a proper office, hired a small team, and started landing contracts I'd once only dreamed of. And yet, through it all, I kept my success hidden from my family. I posted vague updates online, busy season at work, or excited for new projects, but never details. They assumed I was still scraping by, struggling to survive in the big city. Part of me wanted to correct them. Another part enjoyed the secrecy, because I knew, deep down, the reveal would be sweeter when the truth finally came out. And oh, how the truth was waiting for its perfect moment. The moment came 2 years later, on a crisp autumn afternoon. My parents had decided to drop by Chicago on their way to visit Anna in New York. They called it a surprise, though in truth, the surprise was theirs to discover. When they rang the buzzer downstairs, I was sitting in my office, a sunlit space on the 12th floor, overlooking the Chicago River. The walls were lined with framed campaigns my team and I had created, glossy magazine covers, billboards, even a photo of me shaking hands with a Fortune 500 CEO. My grandmother's locket rested on the desk beside my laptop, gleaming under the warm light. I pressed the intercom, steadying my breath. Come up. When the elevator doors opened, my parents stepped out hesitantly. My mother's eyes darted around the sleek glass entryway, while my father's brows furrowed as though he was sure they had walked into the wrong place. "Emily, is this where you work?" my mother asked, her voice a mixture of awe and disbelief. "Yes," I said calmly, watching their expressions shift as they followed me inside. They passed the reception area, where my assistant greeted them politely. Their footsteps echoed against polished marble floors. The office smelled faintly of lavender and fresh coffee. On one wall hung a large canvas print of our agency's name, Harper and Company. My last name, my company. We reached the conference room, its glass walls overlooking the skyline. My father lingered at the doorway, scanning the long table, the leather chairs, the screen mounted on the wall. His lips parted, but no words came. I let the silence stretch. I wanted them to feel it, the weight of everything they had once dismissed me as incapable of achieving. Finally, I spoke. "I'm the founder and CEO of this agency. We manage national campaigns for some of the biggest brands in the country. Last quarter, our revenue crossed 7 figures." My mother gasped softly, one hand flying to her chest. My father blinked rapidly, as if the numbers couldn't possibly add up in his head. "And you built this?" he asked, his voice low, almost hoarse. "Yes," I replied, my tone steady, but not unkind. Every late night, every client, every decision, it was me. And the people I chose to believe in me. My mother's eyes filled with tears. She sat down, shaking her head. "We had no idea." "That's right," I said, folding my hands on the table. "You didn't. Because you never asked. Because you assumed I was still the invisible girl you left behind." The words hung heavy in the air. My father opened his mouth, closed it again, then finally said, "We thought you were struggling. We thought, Anna, she was the one who deserved the spotlight." I finished for him, not with anger, but with a calm that came from years of healing. Well, I found my own light. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the city outside. My parents sat there, stripped of assumptions, staring at the woman they had overlooked for nearly 3 decades. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. I felt powerful. I leaned back in my chair, watching them absorb the truth. For once, the silence belonged to me. "You know," I began softly, "for years I begged for scraps of attention. A smile, a word of encouragement, a birthday cake that had my name on it. And every time, Anna got the crown while I stood in the shadows. My mother's chin trembled. My father looked away. But now, I continued, my voice steady. Things are different. I decide who has a seat at my table. And if you want to be here, there are conditions. My mother's brows furrowed. Conditions? Yes. I folded my hands, the locket cool against my palm. First, no more favoritism. If you love Anna, that's fine. But I will not stand by while you diminish me to elevate her. Respect must go both ways. They exchanged uneasy glances, but I pressed on. Second, you have to stop pretending everything is perfect. We all know the cracks in this family. If we're going to have a relationship, it has to be honest. No more pretending I don't matter. My father swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. And third, I said, leaning forward, my voice soft but unshakable, you will acknowledge me, not just when it's convenient, not just when you're impressed by what I've built. You will acknowledge me because I'm your daughter, and I always was. Tears slid down my mother's cheeks. My father's shoulders sagged as though the weight of years finally pressed down on him. I'm not saying I don't care, I added. I do. I care enough to set boundaries. I care enough to want better, for me, and for all of us. But I won't go back to being invisible. Not anymore. The room was still, charged with the weight of unspoken regrets. Finally, my mother whispered, "We'll try, Emily. We'll do better. We didn't see you, but we see you now." I studied her, searching for sincerity, and for the first time, I glimpsed something real behind her tears. Shame, yes, but also recognition. It wasn't a perfect apology. It wasn't a magic fix. But it was a beginning. And this time, the terms were mine. In the weeks that followed, something subtle shifted. My parents began calling more, not just to ask about Anna, but to ask about me. At first, I kept my answers measured, cautious. But slowly, I let down pieces of the wall I had built. Anna reached out too. One evening, she sent a message that surprised me. "I know I got the attention. I didn't realize how much it hurt you. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest." And that was more than I'd ever had before. I still kept my boundaries firm. I reminded myself daily that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, and compassion didn't mean surrender. Healing had to be mutual. They needed to do the work too. One quiet night, I sat by my apartment window again, the city lights flickering like fireflies below. I held my grandmother's locket in my hand, thumb brushing over the tiny engraving. Her words echoed in my mind. "You don't need the world's applause to know your worth." She had been right. But what she hadn't told me, what I had discovered on my own, was that when you know your worth, the world can't help but notice eventually. I smiled, closing the locket and setting it gently against my collarbone. The ache of the past was still there, but softer now. Less a wound, more a scar, proof of survival, of strength. I thought back to that Facebook post, the caption that once burned like betrayal. And for the first time, I laughed. Because the truth was clear, their surprise party hadn't been for me. But this life, this freedom, this power, this peace, was the greatest surprise party I could have ever thrown for myself. And I was the guest of honor.